This is Erica with Launching Legacies. Welcome to our daily devotional. Today we are continuing an extended devotional on application of biblical stories, and we're looking at a supplanter today. So supplant means to like overtake, to replace something or someone. So this is a person who replaces someone else. And so we're going to look in Genesis, the 25th chapter. We're going to look at the story of two brothers, Jacob and Esau. Now, Jacob becomes Israel. His name gets changed to Israel later on, so just keep that in mind. But Jacob and Esau are the grandsons of Abraham. Okay, so Abraham and Sarah have Isaac, and Isaac has Jacob and Esau, and so on and so forth. So that just gives you a little background. But now Isaac marries a woman named Rebekah, okay? And Rebekah is barren, okay? She can't have children, so Isaac prays for her, and then she is able to have children. And the children that she has are twins, and they are named Jacob and Esau. Now, there's a little bit of interaction that happens here. So Isaac pleaded with the Lord. So I'm at Genesis 25 and 21. Isaac pleaded with the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was unable to have children, and the Lord answered Isaac's prayer, and Rebekah became pregnant with twins. But the two children struggled with each other in the womb. So she went to the Lord and asked about it, right? And so she said, why is this happening to me? And the Lord told her, the sons in your womb will become two nations. From the very beginning, the two nations will be rivals. One nation will be stronger than the other, and your older son will serve your younger son. Okay, and when the time came to give birth, Rebekah discovered that she indeed did have twins, and the first one was very red at birth and was covered with a thick hair like a fur coat. So they named him Esau. And then the other twin was born with his hand grasping Esau's heel. And so they named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when the twins were born. All right. So what happens is Isaac favors Esau. Esau is like a manly man, kind of hunter guy that goes out and gets like wonderful meat for them to have and enjoy. And so Isaac prefers Esau, but Jacob is quieter. He stays at home, and so Rebekah prefers Isaac. Rebekah prefers Jacob. Okay, a lot of names here. So Rebekah likes Jacob and Isaac likes Esau, okay? And these two favorites, this favoritism that happens within this parenting in this home become a problem, okay? So there's a little trick in the beginning where Esau sells his birthright to Jacob because he's so hungry. He's coming from the field and he can't bear to be hungry. He needs to eat something, so he goes. So he says to his brother, please give me something to eat. And so Jacob says to Esau, well, sell me your birthright. Sell me the right to be the firstborn son. Since we're twins, sell me that right. And so actually Esau sells Jacob his birthright, which is not good, but that's what happens. And so he sells him his birthright, and that's one of the first type of interactions that they have that shows that something is wrong here. But what we're going to focus on today is the fact that God tells Rebekah that her children will fight. They'll have a rivalry from the beginning, but that the younger will indeed be stronger than the older, right? That the younger will have more power or more influence than the other. And it's already set in stone. But later on in Genesis 27, they devise a tricky plan in order to trick Isaac into blessing the second son, who is Jacob, over Esau. And so here goes the application, and then I'll read a little bit of the story. The application is as such. God has already told Rebekah, because she asked what's going on with these kids. He's already told Rebekah what's about to happen. He's already laid it out for her. She knows now that the younger son will be the weaker physically, but will eventually be the master or over the oldest son. And so she already knows that's going to happen. So why then does she take it upon herself to be a part of a trickery that ends up deceiving her own husband and stealing a blessing from her other son? That's the question, and that's the application, because it gets real tricky. So in the 27th chapter, what happens is this. When Isaac was old, his eyesight was poor, and so he could not see clearly. And one day he called to his son Esau to him and said, "Son," and Esau answered him, "Here I am." And he says, "Look, go out and get me something to eat. Before I die, I want to bless you. So if you can go to the field, get the animal prepared, bring it to me so that I can eat it. And when you do that, I will bless you." Well, Rebekah is hearing this. She's listening to this, and she goes to her son Isaac, who's her favorite, and she says she goes to her son Jacob, who was her favorite. I don't know why I keep messing these names up. She goes to Jacob and says, "Listen, look at this is what your dad is planning on doing. He's planning on blessing your brother. Instead of him getting the blessing, I'm going to make the food, and you're going to pretend to be your brother, and you're going to get the blessing." So they work together to trick Isaac. It does work, and he gets the blessing. But the application is as such. Sometimes we take it upon ourselves to receive our own blessings, to receive our own benefits, when in fact the benefit was already ours. We don't know what would have happened if they had just trusted what God said. God already said there's going to be two nations. The nations are going to be rivals. That's going to naturally happen. It was happening in the womb before they even knew anything about each other and favorites and all this kind of stuff. Before there was any trickery involved, they were already rivals. God already said, and look at, and the younger one is going to be the master, or going to be over the older one. That's what's going to happen. That's why his name was given Jacob, right? Which means either deceiver, supplanter, something of that nature. And so he's already shaped that in this child. And he's already told them, this is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to be. Why do you think Rebekah and Jacob feel the need to trick Isaac into getting something and wounding this relationship, which is what it's really going to do, and wounding a relationship when God has already made a promise to them? If God makes a promise to you that would otherwise require you to deceive or lie or trick someone in order to gain that benefit, you don't need to engage in the bad behavior. Leave the bad behavior alone, right? And go ahead and trust the Lord to give you what it is that he promised. Now, some people might be thinking, well, maybe God promised it because he knew he was going to trick it. Well, what is the character of God? Is God condoning bad behavior? Is that's what he's saying here? No, he's not saying that I need you to trick your father, put on some fake fur, act like you're hairy so you can be like your brother and steal his birthright by trading some stew, and then go here and pretend to be him and get his blessing as well. No, God doesn't need us to do tricks and shenanigans in order to get what it is that he's already promised for us. We can just have it. We can just have it. We don't need to defy God's character in order to get God's blessings, because he's a holy God. And so he doesn't defy his character to bless us. And so we don't need to defy his character to be blessed. And it's a really important application, because Jacob here is a supplanter because he was born a supplanter. He was born to replace the older. But he didn't have to do trickery, and his mother didn't have to be involved in all of this, deceiving her husband and having all these shenanigans against her son. They could have just received the blessing. That simple. They could have just received whatever it is that God had for them, and known that it was going to end up being something that was going to be great for them no matter what. But sometimes that's difficult for us. Sometimes it's difficult for us to receive that whatever God said about us is going to be true, and it doesn't require us to go outside of our character and do the wrong thing. And this is a strong application. I mean, it's kind of a universal application that we can use across the board. There are many things that we try to go our own way to navigate in order to get what we believe God already has for us. And it's a waste of time, and it's a demonstration of a lack of faith. We need to be mindful not to be like Jacob and Rebekah are in this story, but to be able to trust God to give us whatever he's promised us without fail. And that might be hard for us to do. But I'm praying for you. And I hope you're praying for Launching Legacies as well. This chapter 25 through 27 of Genesis is quite interesting, and I encourage you to read it on your own and study it on your own and continue to be blessed by the story. But don't forget the application. What has God promised you? And if he's the only one that can fulfill it, let him do it. Because having a poor character in order to fulfill a promise that God has already made to you is something like a waste of time. So I encourage you, keep reading, keep studying, and tune in tomorrow for another of our devotionals. And until then, be blessed.